Welcome everybody to this opening panel of the leaders of our network, where we're going to be discussing the strategic and business case for targeting the women's market, as well as new research hot off the press that AXA has just published today. 8,000 interviews in 8 countries on female consumer sentiment towards the pandemic and the impact that has on their lives and their futures, and the panel's reactions to that. And then also we're brought a more broader discussion on how we can work within the ecosystem to make it more supportive of female entrepreneurs. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our panelists. Stephen Puig, CEO of BHD Leon, Banco BHD Leon, Dominican Republic. Demanta Senavernati, Group CEO, National Development Bank, Sri Lanka. Julie Baker, Head of Enterprise and Community Banking, NatWest, UK, and Ulrike De Coni, Chief Communications Officer for AXA with the HQ in Paris. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's start with Stephen, please. We'd like to kick off, Stephen, and ask, as CEO of BHD Leon, can you share why you took the strategic decision to target the women's market, and what has been the impact on your bottom line?
Thank you, and thanks for the invitation to be on this panel. In terms of our original decision, which was about a little over 6 years ago in our case, it was a very easy decision, and it was based on a business case. It was based on simply looking at the demographics in our country and demographics outside of our country as well. Very easy to see that the participation in the economically active population in our country is growing at a much faster rate among women than among men. In addition to that, we also saw that 80%, a little over 80% of economic decisions, household decisions, were being taken by or with the participation of women in those households. And in addition to that, the top grads in most of our universities happen to be women as well. And finally, in our own organization, over 50% of our staff are women, and about 50% of the direct reports to myself and our chairman are women as well. So fortunately, it was an easy decision for us to take. And the business case that we put together, thankfully, has also been borne out over the last few years. What we've seen is a faster growth rate in terms of our women customer than our male customers. This has happened over the last 5 years. We've seen an annual growth rate in women customers of about 13% per annum, while our men customers have been growing at 10%. Aside from that, the number of products that our female customers have has grown from 1.9 products to about 2.23 products in our consumer banking division. And finally, I would also mention, just as evidence of how we're doing, that the number of products bought by our female customers has increased from a little over 600,000 per year to well over 1.2 million products per year. So to answer your question, basically, we saw a great opportunity, and over the last 5 years, we're very pleased to say that it's materialized as well.
And that is really really great business results. And any bank that is seeing a 30% growth in customers per year is the envy of the banking sector. Passing now and going over to Sri Lanka.
1-3. That was 1-3, not 30.
13. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
30. I would think you're selling. You're doing something crazy. Okay, but 13 is amazing. Okay. Okay, so let's go over to Sri Lanka and hear from Demanta. Why did you take are you taking a strategic approach to the women's market in Sri Lanka, and what has been the impact on the business?
Right. Okay. Actually, in Sri Lanka, women enjoy a very special place in the society. Of course, unlike some of the other countries where birth of a girl is considered a boon, women are respected in Sri Lanka, and this is a country where even history has proved that over the country's 200 years of ruling history. A couple of queens ruling the country, and also a country that produced the world's first prime minister. and also we had a female executive president who had 2 terms. So that, I mean, there are opportunities, and also if you look at the education opportunities given, it's equal for both men and women. However, of course, the 51% of the population is also women. However, when it comes to their contribution to the economy, that percentage of economic contribution is about 30%. If you look at even the undergraduates, about 60% of the undergraduates who are going through the university education are females. However, there again, their contribution to the economy after graduation is about 35%. So there is a gap, that the gap really due to several cultural reasons. They don't own any property. I mean, the property rights and all usually given to men, and it's still a men-driven society. So what we felt was there is a opportunity available and there is a need to get these women because their skill levels are much higher or even equal, or in some cases it's higher. Now we ourselves at NDB, we also realize if you look at our workforce, 40% of them are females. And if you look at my senior management team, again, the leadership team, 40% of them are female. And we saw that they bring a lot of insights into the discussion table and they have equally contributed to the bank's progress. And that's where I think NDB had also scored as only H certified entity in Sri Lanka, where we have given equal opportunities for women in terms of career progression and all. So we felt a bank where a H certified bank, 40% of female cadre working here, we are in a better position to take banking on women initiative to the country. So that's where we initially started working closely with IFC to take this initiative up about 3 years ago, having introduced several new initiations like earlier account for women. And since of late, we saw the opportunity coming in terms of even providing platforms for women entrepreneurs to showcase their products and all. And during the COVID time, we saw the necessity for such arrangements. And then, since of late, we also tied up with a local TV channel to even provide them opportunities to showcase their talents by recognizing their achievements in various fields. So this little bit of the economic reason why NDB went for this project, and as we move on during the discussion, I will share a lot more insight, some more details later on.
Great. Thanks, Damanta. Very interesting. And, of course, women are 51% of the population all over the world. But the challenge, of course, is to get every woman to realize her own dreams and to be as fully economically active as possible. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic over to Julie Baker, who leads at NatWest their entire focus on banking on women and women in business, which they've done for a number of years. And they provide probably one of the most interesting a range of non-financial services to women SMEs. Julie, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing and what kind of results you're seeing at the bank?
Yeah, yes, and good afternoon, everybody. Our original Women's Market Programme was launched back in 2012. But it was after I attended the Financial Alliance for Women Academy at The Hague back in 2016 that we were really able to build it build the business case and take it to the next level. And the important part of that for me was to be able to go back to the senior management team to show them the value of a program and actually build it into what it is today. So today, I'm proud to say that we have over 600 women in business specialists. These are relationship managers that we've put through an accreditation program. That's a professional qualification where they can provide tailored support to our female clients. We work in partnership with Every Woman and Chartered Banker. So it's split into two parts of the program. There's the non-financial support and the financial support. And like Inez says, on the non-financial side, we offer various sort of initiatives. First of all, we have an informative website, the NatWest Business Hub, where we have informative sort of signposting, articles, case studies that guide and inform female entrepreneurs. We have a regular events program. This was out in the communities around the UK, but since COVID, we've digitized the program, and we're delighted to see that attendance has actually increased since it's been digitized. But access to networks is really important for female entrepreneurs. And also to education and supportive sessions. So we have 12 accelerator hubs around the UK. We've had to pivot those to digitized support during COVID, but we now have a business builder accelerator program so that even more female entrepreneurs can go through that program. And again, we set ourselves an aspirational target of 50% of females to go through that program. But of course, we all know that one of the biggest barriers that face female entrepreneurs is access to finance. And so when we look at baselining our data back in 2016 and at what KPIs should we set, one of the initial KPIs was set around increasing lending to our female business owners. So year on year, our female business owners, since we've baselined the data, has outperformed the uplift to their male counterparts. The best year was an 11% increase. 2020 compared to 2019 has totally been knocked through the roof because of the COVID lending. So last year, we launched a £1 billion lending fund for female entrepreneurs. And that was to make sure that we as a bank focus on lending £1 billion to female founders by 2025. With all the COVID support lending, I'm delighted to say that actually we are about £600 million of the way there, and we're not even a year out the door yet. So we'll probably need to increase that fund by the end of next year. But the other really important measure or KPI we have in there is the Net Promoter Score. And right from the outset, we see that our female founders are scoring us 7 points higher than our male counterparts when it comes to service. So why is that important? Well, obviously it's important we deliver value to the different segments. And a lot of the female founders are in the startup and the smaller SME sectors. But what we're seeing now is more and more with the support, with the mentoring and with the role models that we profile, enabling them to get to that scale up stage so we can signpost them to our accelerator hubs and some coaches where it's needed to get to further support. The other thing I'd like to mention is we feel at NatWest it's really important to recognise the achievements of female founders. They are a minority in the UK. It's important we offer them support, but we also need the role models out there to inspire the next generation. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Really interesting work in the UK, and we'll touch a little bit more on your role as the ecosystem orchestrator over there in a short while. Over to Paris now, and Ulrike. AXA have just done some really interesting research into consumer sentiment. So you have a women's market program in well over 10 countries, and you were actually one of the leaders inside the institution that really promoted that. How is that going, and how is that supporting your overall corporate strategy and indeed the resilience of the organization?
Ines, I'm very happy to be joining this conversation, and you're right, our women insurance program is now more or less 4 years old, which I understood from Rebecca is still a young age compared to the average. So we still have a lot to learn, and we're learning a lot by partnering, by everything we learn with you guys at the Financial Alliance for Women. So the outset of this program was actually a market study that we made back in 2016. jointly with the IFC and with Accenture, and which highlighted a huge, what we would call now, especially after COVID, a huge protection gap when it came to women needs both in the health space, in the savings area, in their ability to be financially independent and to play a role in the economy. So for us, it was a real eye opener and clearly a calling upon the industry, the insurance industry. What we're seeing, thanks to our partners in this alliance, is that the banking industry is probably quite advanced on this, and we have some catch up to do at our level in our industry. And it was also for us at AXA a way to seize an opportunity, a business opportunity. When I think the figure has been quoted, women are ready to invest up to 90% of their income in protecting their overall household. So clearly, I think somebody said earlier on, women are better customers. Women are, for us in the insurance space, clearly women are the go-to person when it comes to raising awareness, working on prevention, and designing products which can really tackle their immediate needs. So this is what we've been rolling out, not with I would say it's not a global approach, it's more a multi-local approach, as is insurance, a very specific to the regulatory conditions and to the economic development of every country. So we've been developing in the health space with specific coverages for women in countries where there is little state protection and there are specific vulnerabilities and needs. In the women entrepreneurship space, and it's good to hear that a lot of us are tackling that space because there's such a huge amount of work to do there, especially after the current crisis, but also in more mature markets, also working towards the financial independence of women. And there, what I must say, one of the learnings that we had was our major asset on that journey is really our distribution force. So we've been working a lot, especially here in France, with our agents, our distributors, to make sure they seize this opportunity, and they're also prepared to engage those conversations about financial independence with women. I would say overall, after these 4 years, we're really happy to see, Anne was mentioning earlier on, how sad it is sometimes to see amazing programs launched and then for some reason some of the businesses giving up on it. We see that those businesses that started with us are continuing to tackle that market with more experience. We're learning every day. We're also trying to on our side to include the services and offering into a more holistic approach. So trying to leverage all the different tools we have, using our innovation ecosystem to offer mentorship to women, acceleration to some of their projects. We're using our research foundation to finance research on specific women health topics. We're leveraging our brand and our brand partnerships, such as with LinkedIn, to create communities where we can put resources at their disposal. So it's really a 360 approach. And I think we can say that we're fairly happy with it when it comes to the overall impact, and we're going to talk about this further on. I think when we see how the current crisis has deepened this protection gap and how it has really revealed some of the vulnerabilities that we were aiming to tackle, you can say that there's still a lot of work to do from us, but also from the whole industry.
Thank you, Ulrike. And today, I believe you have just published your latest piece of research called On the Front Line, the Global Economic Impact of COVID-19 on Women, which I had the pleasure of having a sneak preview of a few weeks ago. 8,000 interviews in 8 markets, 5 in Europe and 3 in emerging markets, and really, really fascinating. Can you tell us a little bit about the highlights of your findings in terms of female consumer sentiment in response to COVID?
Yeah, absolutely, Ines. And we're very happy we're actually revealing that study today. We really wanted to, to have the exclusiveness for your conference, which is so important in the topics you want to tackle. So yeah, we wanted to very quickly. I mean, we are in many countries far away from being able to say we are out of the crisis, but at this very early stage, understand on one side how women had been impacted by the crisis on their economic, I would say, resilience, and how they were considering and looking at the future, at least for the next couple of months. So the findings, I think there are two sides to it. I would say some of those findings are quite worrying and I would say really raise a sense of urgency in terms of how we need to act further. So 1 out of 5 women have sacrificed quality of life, which goes up to the stage of limiting the quantity of food they were purchasing. So that, to me personally, was very striking. Close to 50% of women had to tap into their individual savings. And when we know how far we are to ensuring financial independence of women, that's still another burden which we will have to deal with in the years to come. 20% required the help of their families, and 20% expressed a very strong level of stress when it came to their mental health because of the fact that they had been, taking such a huge part of the household's duty on top of working from home. So those are findings probably not surprising when we know how exposed women were due to the fact that they were in some of the I would say the sectors of the economy that had to continue going on, and so were extremely exposed, and how much their jobs in the service space are at risk. On the more positive side, nevertheless, when we look at the 6 months to come, what we see are also opportunities, and it's great to see that in some of the countries, and I have to say more so in the emerging markets, see the fallout of the crisis as also a way to develop their own ability to become entrepreneur. We have that incredible, very stellar figure of 52% of Nigerian women expressing their willingness to launch an entrepreneurial project after the crisis. And so I think we need to really seize that opportunity to try to make, we are very engaged as well on the climate change agenda, and we talk about building back better. But I do think on the female inclusion and empowerment and role in the economy, also we need to probably be engaged to building back better. This is what we've tried to do with some of the measures we took during the crisis. I know the sector was very criticized in several countries on business interruption, but I think this should not overshadow the amount of support and help the insurance industry has provided by continuing to cover other risks, because on top of business interruption, we've seen cyber attack, for example, really skyrocketing, which is a huge risk for SMEs, for example. So we've kept the coverage of and the guarantees to those businesses, even when they could not pay their premiums anymore, and that was a big commitment on our side. We've continue to invest in services such as teleconsultation, which are often 60 to 70% of the users are actually women. So really trying to develop this access to health with additional services linked to mental health. So as a customer, and even in some countries such as Belgium, it was open to anyone. Putting those networks that we had at their service was something really important for us. And I'm going to stop there because I could go on forever on the type of I would say support we try to provide to women during this crisis.
Yeah, and for those of you, thanks Ulrike, for those of you that are in the chat function, we have a link to that report, which you can download, and also it will be uploaded very shortly onto the actual live website. I think what's so fascinating about that research is the difference across European countries, for start, in terms of feelings of security or insecurity, with German women feeling the most secure, let's say, and Italian and feeling the least, and France and in the UK somewhere in between. And then quite a different read altogether from Mexico, Nigeria and Thailand. So it's a really, really fascinating. The other thing about that report I thought was very interesting was how you unpacked the mental load that women are facing. And this is, I think we all know who's on this call, the kind of pressures women face in terms of their gender roles, being responsible for or feeling responsible for children, spouses, elderly parents. And so when a pandemic hits, it all hits at the same time. So with that, I would love to pass it over now to both Stephen and Damanta as business leaders. What do you pick up from what Ulrike has said about the insights in that report, and what instincts do you have about how your bank is going to react in terms of support?
Thanks. In terms of what we just heard, I think that one of the things that we've been trying to do is precisely help with that mental load. I mean, for several months now, it's something that was palpable that we had picked up from our staff. We set up a lot more communication with respect to a hotline that we have internally for our employees to report any situations that they might have at home. And interestingly enough, in our case, we found that the men who were working from home were having a harder time adjusting than the women, precisely because that load that you and Ulrike just mentioned was something that our women employees happen to be more accustomed to doing from home and 24/7 as well. The men were not so accustomed to being at home, and their kids weren't accustomed to seeing them at home and working necessarily. So that was kind of an interesting note for us. In terms of other things that we might be doing, what we've tried to do with our employees is to not move anyone without making sure that we've double checked what their home situation actually is, whether they're men or whether they're women, i.e., we recognize that men and women have additional responsibilities with their kids at home that they didn't necessarily have beforehand, because beforehand they weren't necessarily schooling at home. They were most likely schooling outside of the home. So I think it's really a matter of empathy more than anything else in terms of decisions on where we expect people to be and how they connect, and facilitating connections. We at the outset, we have about 5,000 employees. We bought over 1,000 new PCs. We had our security teams checking that these PCs could be used in a relatively safe environment that had adequate Wi-Fi. We've changed our benefits as well to include certain benefits so that our employees, can absorb the costs that they now have that they didn't necessarily have at home. For example, we provide gasoline subsidies to our employees, and these were accumulating over the last few months. So a couple of weeks ago, we announced to everyone that we would convert these into resources that they could use, for needs that they would have at home, to pay their electric bills or to, buy home office equipment, et cetera. So those are the kinds of things that we've seen up to now, Inez.
Could I hear from Damanta, please? It's very interesting, Stephen. Thank you.
Sure. I think, okay, I think very, very valid insights, and we are looking forward to receiving a copy of that research. I'm sure a lot of learnings from that. You may have not covered Sri Lanka, but I saw some of the Asian countries have been covered. There's a lot we can take up from these research initiatives. But I think key insights from that certainly have to be applied. I think that women all over the world think alike. So this naturally, as the people who manage the home front, they're naturally worried about how the future is, and those insights would be very useful. How each country is tackling those would be quite useful for us to apply. So looking forward to a copy of that. Talk about again what NDB is doing to support the women journey in this market, and especially in COVID related situation. I think from the beginning of the year, we have been working on several initiatives. The one thing that came up was encouraging the women entrepreneurs we initiated a product called Jayagamu Sri Lanka or winning Sri Lanka after COVID to we realized that a country need a lot of entrepreneurship, encouraging the entrepreneurship and encouraging exports. So that's where even women also can take the initiative. And also we use the non-financial support in terms of providing assistance in terms of setting up uh, new entities using our legal team, and also we got several volunteers to provide that advice to the women in starting up new businesses, even the women-driven beauty culture program. So many home-based arrangements that we supported by getting a non-finance team who had been registered with NDB, and then we took those initiatives to the country by having several workshops. And then later we realized that one thing that is lacking is a platform for them to sell their products. I mean, there are good entrepreneurs, their home-based products they produce, but to market it, especially during the COVID kind of a situation where they can't bring that to a common place. So that's why we came up with a platform where we tied up with two IT platforms to have a marketplace. One is in Alibaba, where this in Sri Lanka it's called Daras, and another one, a Sri Lankan firm who's showcase products in the export market. So now we have quite a significant number of women entrepreneurs registered with us, where we also went to the extent of registering them with the Sri Lanka Export Development Board, the Chamber of Commerce, and also providing training, and also came up with ERP solution where through the ERP solution they would know where the market, where the products are, where the debtors are, where the stock levels are. So that will also provide financier like us, a bank, more insights about where their cash flows and where their receivables are. So we can also take an informed credit decision to provide them more finance. And that has helped us to evaluate credit in a more holistic way and in an accurate way. Of course, we knew from our research that their repayability is much stronger than men. Their intention to settle are much stronger. But here that also provided a ERP solution, and this holistic solution provided us a more opportunity to take some additional risks compared to the loans that we give to men. And I'm sure that is a revolutionary project that we started, and that has also taken the other thing we did was taking them encouraging them through an award scheme that earlier I mentioned, where we tied up with the largest TV channel in Sri Lanka, uh, encouraging them to take part in about 8 categories: microfinance, the upper SMEs, those who have excelled in sports, leadership, like that. About 8 categories, showcasing their talent, and then they selected the province level winners, and we had two provinces that have been covered. We have another 6 more to go, and at the end of about 5 months program, we are targeting the next state to have a grand event in the capital Colombo, again showcasing the women who are backward, giving them the opportunity to come out and showcase their talents. So like that, I think we need to do things from our side, a company, a bank who can give our financial support, our advisory support, to get them out from that mindset and get them out and contribute to the economy. And so that is working well, and as a result, that has helped NDB brand as a bank that is to go bank for the women. I think that is what we want to showcase, and I think we have so far at good progress. So those are some things that I thought I should share with this, because these discussions like this through the Financial Alliance for Women, we do get a lot of ideas. I thought I should share also some of our stories. So I'm sure those who are interested in developing the women's market would also get some good ideas. And I'm looking forward to similar ideas coming from all the other participants. So this is a little bit of our story. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Jamanta, and really very interesting. And actually, after this panel, we will be looking at new research on the business case for non-financial services and the different kinds of services that are proving, or at least the different ways that you can scale those services, right? And e-commerce platform tie-ins, as you mentioned, is one of those. Of course, it's very interesting. I wanted to kind of pass it over to Julie because NatWest has been so instrumental in the ecosystem in the UK with the publication of Alison Rowe's review last year, which found a £250 billion value of the gender gap between female entrepreneurship rates and male entrepreneurship rates, and as a result of which your CEO has really led the others in the sector around this, and to specifically talk about the Investing in Women Code, which I believe you have 66 financial institutions in the UK signed up, including all of the major banks, VCs and angels, to not only support and give more money to female entrepreneurs, but also to publish their data on that to make everybody a little bit more accountable. Let's say, could you explain a little bit more about that and the progress you've made over the last 12 months?
Yeah, thanks, Inez. And yeah, absolutely. The Rose Review, the goal or the initial objectives was to fully understand the barriers faced by female entrepreneurs. And then so we could tap into that huge unrealised potential, which was £250 billion to the UK economy, if female entrepreneurs were to open and scale businesses at the same rate as men. And when you looked at all of the barriers, they sort of went into three different categories. Some were around access and finance. Some was the access to care and caring responsibilities and the impact of that on female founders. And the third thing was the access to the mentors, coaching networks, and what you'll be discussing in the next session. But when we came to look at access to finance, we realised it was something that one bank couldn't do on its own, and the UK government couldn't do it either. So it had to be a collaboration between private and public sector. So Alison Rose wrote to all of the CEOs and the founders of the fintechs, the other mainstream banks, the VCs, the business angels. And last July, we launched the Investing in Women Code, which is a commitment to support the advancements of female entrepreneurship in the UK by providing female entrepreneurs with access to tools, resources, and finance from across the whole of the finance sector. So we know a diverse and inclusive business ecosystem is good for customers, entrepreneurs, business investors, and societies. So by working in collaboration with the Treasury and the now 66 firms, we've shared a commitment to work in partnership to make the UK an attractive country to start and grow a business, especially if you're a female entrepreneur. So how did we do it? Well, first of all, we had to get the buy-in from a senior leadership or exco member of all of those 66 organisations, because it had to be led from the top. So a key individual, senior individual, is responsible for supporting equality with entrepreneurs and puts their name to the commitment to the code. The second part of it is providing HM Treasury, which is part of the UK government, the data which has been agreed. So it's a set of data concerning all female-led businesses, mixed gender-led businesses, and male-led businesses. And the HM Treasury will collate and publish the data in an annual report. The first report, which won't be for a full 12 months, it'll be for the half year end in June 2020, will be released before the end of the year. So we're really excited to see that data. But of course, what that will also show is the impact of the COVID lending between females and male business owners as well. So it'd be really good to see the comparisons there. And the final part of the commitments was that non-financial support for every organization, whether you're a business angel, a VC, a mainstream bank, or a fintech, to adopt internal practices which aim to improve the potential for female entrepreneurs, and so that they can access tools, resources, investments, and working with other strategic partners out in the marketplace to ensure that we have that sort of fit for purpose ecosystem readily available for all female founders in the UK.
Wow. And so this is an example, and all our members actually are great examples of institutions within their own countries that are actually amplifying. So based upon the results, their own business results, they're able to then be very instrumental in driving the ecosystem. I wanted to ask you as leaders a final question. We had a CEO forum just before this summit with many of the CEOs of our network. And the fact is, we are reaching tens of millions of women, but we need to be reaching hundreds of millions of women. And so my question to you is, what would you say to other leaders of financial services companies in order to persuade them to take on the women's market?
Happy to start.
Who wants to? Sure.
I'll do it. I think that I have a couple of comments on that question. First, I think that this matter of undertaking a women's program at a financial institution or not seems to be a binary thing from what I've seen over the last 6 years. Either you get it or you don't. And I would say to those that are not getting it or don't see the picture, look at the business case, look at the demographics, look at the data, and you should be able to see that there's a very clear case for undertaking a women's program, simply in terms of your customers. But it goes much further than that. It goes to what many so far today have mentioned. It goes to what you're doing in terms of motivating your own folks. I think that it's important, if you have a women's program, from the outset to link it to your purpose. And I think one of the things we've seen with the crisis now is everybody, or many companies, are looking to their their stated purposes and seeing how that can be related to what's going on. I think a women's program is something that can be very motivating internally when you have a strong link to your purpose and the values you have as an organization. So I would say that's another tip. The other thing I would say is that once you're convinced, once you have the business case, I think it's important to lead from the top. We were very fortunate that we received support from the moment we thought about doing this from our board and our chairman, and also to lead broadly. Don't put this in a corner where it's the responsibility of one person to do this or one person with a small staff. I think it has to be done with a broadly based staff that represents most of the areas of your financial institution. In our case, I remember we received a recommendation from one advisor to name a VP in charge of what we're doing in terms of the women's market, and we decided against that. To this day, we have the multifunctional team that we had developing the initiative working on this. So we have folks from marketing, we have folks from our business areas, from product areas, from PR, from HR, working on our initiative, and taking a look constantly, which would be my last recommendation. Assuring that you're capturing the value you set out to, taking a look at how we're doing, what we're capturing, and making sure that we're moving forward on what we thought we could do.
Words of wisdom there. Can I ask Ulrike, please?
Thank you, Ines. I subscribe to everything that Stephen just said. I fully agree. I think this needs to be a company-wide effort, and you need to put all your different levers in a consistent way to serve the purpose. I would maybe add two things. The first one is you need other. It's such a big challenge and such an important one, and I do believe that what the financial industry can bring to that cause is still very underestimated by governments and by public and civil organizations. So you need to also spend the time out there to to explain what you can do and to try to find the right public partner to work collectively. And my third point would be very simple. It's do it in a sustained manner. I think this is not something that you take on for 1 or 2 years. It takes time. The learning takes time. The onboarding of the different stakeholders takes time. So if you're not in it for, I would say, a 10-year period, then you might be doing something else. Probably it would be a pity, but I do think this focus for a long-term endeavor is really important.
Thanks, Ulrike. Well, I suppose it's like everything in life. You put the work in, and the return will happen over time. It's not instantaneous, but that means it's sustainable. 30 seconds to Damanta, please, for a tweet on what you think we can do to persuade other leaders to take this on.
Yeah, I think that we have been quite blessed with the support given by IFC, FAW and all, because taking this idea into a concept, and now I think over the last 2.5 years, this idea was conceived, provided the IFC and FAW, and then we took that concept and now it is in action stage. And to do that, even getting the organization lined up. For example, the EDGE certification, again, having seen the gender equality that we maintain at the NDB, we are the only EDGE certified company in Sri Lanka. I've been showing that and showcasing that, yes, you are a better positioned entity to provide this idea and take it into a actionable item. You all have provided that guidance. So I think in that sense, from what other organizations learn is that I think if we work closely with these kind of initiatives like Financial Alliance and all, we should be able to progress more in this kind of arrangement. Given the limited time, I need to stop
Thanks.
that.
Yeah, that's not quite a tweet, but nearly a tweet. I think really excellent insight. Julie, I don't think we have time. I'm sorry, we have to cut very tightly, but you've all been fantastic. Anybody who's really listened will pick up those gems of wisdom and be able to take this forward. We look forward to continuing on with the summit, and thank you so much to my esteemed panelists. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.